Alright, the next question is draw and explain the characteristics of a quantal dose response curve. Describe major clinical effects of ROC. Outline medication and medical condition that may cause the graph to shift left and right. So these are two parts of the question. So first you have to draw a quantal. So the structure is draw a quantal dose response curve. Explain what the quantal dose response curve is, and the steep or the threshold and the steepness. And then the second part of the question is describe left and right shift. So the first thing you do is percent of reduction at 95% twitch height, and you can see it doesn't start at 0 because there's a threshold concentration, ED95, which is the ED50, which is 0.3 milligrams, and that's the log of the dose, okay? And you have a dose response curve. Now, what you want to do is define everything. So quantal dose response curve is a percentage of population with 95% reduction in twitch 1 height. ED95 is the dose at which 50% of the population have a 95% reduction in T1, i.e. 2 times the ED95 is the intubating dose. Threshold concentration, which is this part, is the curve does not start at 0, i.e. Needs basically 75 is occupancy before any clinical effect. So that word was require. So basically, and then the slope, the steepness of the slope relates to the dose. So a small increase in dose means a large increase in population response. So just for understanding, this is population. So like this is population, 100 people are sitting here on the graph. So they get an intubating dose and it works for them here. 200 people are here, 300, whatever. So the idea is that on a 0.3 milligram dose, 50% of people get intubated. But because the slope is steep, it shows that there's not a big range. As opposed to something else like fentanyl, for example. Some people, you got your ultra metabolizers and poor metabolizers. Okay, so on the flat portion, it means there's a proportion of threshold. This steep slope means less variability in between patients, and the flatter the slope, maximum population demonstrating saturated receptors. So I would actually put that on the graph. So I've just labeled A, B, and C to make it on the graph. So A is the threshold, B is the steepness of the curve, reduced into variability, and C is the steepness of the slope, showing the maximum receptors. Then you talk about left and right shift. So left shift and right shift. Now, how do you remember that? So you don't confuse it, explain it. A left shift means reduced potency. So reduced dose required. Think of it as reduced ACH receptors. And a right shift is increased potency, increased dose. Think of it as increased ACH available. So if there's an increased ACH, that means you need more dose to block them. Okay. So the way to think about it is presynaptic, postsynaptic. Things that reduce ACH release, if you block the presynaptic receptors, so volatiles and frusemide, they reduce CAM synthesis. Block presynaptic calcium, such as aminoglycans, magnesium, calcium channel blockades, volatiles. Postsynaptic interfere with nicotinic ACH receptors. Block postsynaptic NACHR, so volatiles. Other non-depolarizing agents, additive is the same class, synergistic is different. So that is saying that these are the things that block it. So you just have to remember it, but you know that presynaptic and postsynaptic are both what? Volatiles. You know that other non-depolarizing are obviously postsynaptic and presynaptic, blocking the calcium, magnesium, calcium channel blocker, and volatiles all block the presynaptic calcium and aminoglycan. Then physiologically, think of it as like a magnesium plug. If you increase magnesium, you'll block the calcium channel, and then the rest are the opposite. Decrease calcium, decrease potassium, decrease pH. Why? Because if you decrease calcium, you decrease excitation contractility. If you decrease potassium, you hyperpolarize the membrane, reduce action potential, because you normally have a potassium efflux, so an increase in potassium, but you're decreasing potassium. Decrease pH, you have more ionization, so increase potency. And then pathology, myasthenia gravis, less receptors. Elderly, less receptors. neonates, immature, NAC. Can MG hit a rock on left turn? So this is a mnemonic saying that an MG car takes a left turn and it hits a rock. So MG car hit a rock on the left turn. So they just have to remember myasthenic gravis is always left on rock. So myasthenic gravis is always left on rock. So it hits a rock and on the left turn. Now on the right turn, you got Burns, immobility, denervation, muscle function. So it makes sense because you have more ACHR receptors with Burns, immobility, and denervation. But you just have to remember myasthenia gravis hits a rock. MG hits a rock on the left when it takes a left turn. For some reason, it's just how I remember it. And why is that important? Because SAX is the opposite. So SAX is MG, there's less receptors, right? SAX is resistant to someone with MG because there's less receptors. So if there's less receptors, you need more receptors for blockade. And then a right shift is reversal, obviously, neostigmine, increasing ACH, swigammadex, chelator agents, chronic action, what does that say? An upregulation of CYP450 enzyme. A chronic anticonvulsant, that's what it's saying, like phenytoin, upregulates CY450 enzyme. We kind of already know that because phenytoin induces CYP450.